Okay, welcome back. Once again, one more week, same challenges, but I hope and pray that all of you are safe, secure, and continue to work remotely. And before we get started, as always, let's just pray for the healthcare workers who are working 24 by 7 and protecting us. And also just pray for the victims of this pandemic, because there are a lot of people. Now it's a reality. Earlier, means 4 months back, it was an incident in China, and then started slowly it became nearer to you, and now it's a reality. A lot of people in our own community may have it. So let's be careful, let's be prayerful, and I'm sure, again, I'm really optimistic and positive that this will be under control very soon. So let's keep on praying, and let's keep the hope and move ahead, because this gives, just see this as another opportunity to learn, study, and also do something which you cannot usually do always. So sometimes that happens. We will quickly, there was one question I've been getting from multiple people. People were calling me offline also. Somebody wanted to understand, not somebody, a lot of people wanted to understand an end-to-end view of the laws of karma. What exactly the scriptures talk about the law of karma? Is that just fate? They wanted to start, because I think I talked about that piecemeal, what is Sanchita karma, etc. I talked, but people were asking me to talk about that from an end-to-end perspective. And in fact, verse 27 is going to refer about this law of karma. So at least I thought, let's take a pause. And then when I was just looking at how it is being perceived by the community about the law of karma, I found it is completely different from that of scriptures. So I thought, why don't we talk about that a little bit detail and try to have a clear understanding of what is the law of karma. And we'll start from the scientific basis, and there are certain things which we cannot explain with science, so we will explain that also, and we will try to give an end-to-end picture so that all of you have a clear understanding of what is the law of karma. So that is one of the long awaited discussion. So this is the time to do that. So with that, we will do a quick recap. Last week we completed one of the key topic from the second chapter, because the first 10 verses of the second chapter is basically, it is a restatement of the problem. The problem is that I am subjected to sorrow. I am at risk in getting into a sorrow. Different scenarios or situation can trigger that sorrow, but I am subjected to sorrow. It could be a health issue, it could be a pandemic, it could be a financial issue, it could be the fear of death, but I am subjected to sorrow. So this teachings of the Bhagavad Gita should help me from coming out of that risk. So Krishna started by saying that Gatasun agatasumscha na anushojanti pandidaha. Pandita, it's not the typical panda which you see in North India. Panda typically in North India is a priest, the one who help you to do the ritual. That is not what we meant here. The real panda is the one who knows the self or the Atma properly. He is known as panda because he won't get into a depressed mood. Krishna said that. And for that, he tried to explain the three different dimensions of a jiva. Jiva means the one who has life. So any living being has three dimensions. We talked about that. There is a physical body, there is a subtle body known as soul also, and there is an Atma. And what exactly is the nature of each one of this, and what is the longevity of each one of this, and how each one of us operates. We saw everything. And Krishna was trying to point out the fact that in reality, the real nature of each one of us is Atma. Subtle body as well as the physical body is a gadget given to you. And the problem is you identify with your gadget and you take your gadget as yourself And as a result, the longevity of the gadget belongs to the longevity of myself, and all the pluses and minuses of the gadget becomes the pluses and minuses of myself. And the Atma's nature can be summarized in 7 points. It is Nitya, means eternal. It is Satyaha, it is the absolute reality. So it is the independent reality. We talked about that. And Atma Sarvagataha, we saw that it is all pervading. It pervades everywhere. And we saw that it is Ekaha. There is only one Atma for the entire universe. And then Aprameya, it cannot be known through the usual means of perception. So we saw that. And then it is Akarta and Abhoktaha. It is not an agent of action, and it is not an object of action. And it is Nirvikalpaha. It is not subjected to any modification. So with that, we said, and Krishna concluded, therefore, there is no, means knowing that you are the real Atma, there is no need to get into a depressed mode. So that much we saw. So now we go to verse 26. But here the problem is, it's very nice to see that Atma is Nityaha, Sarvagataha, all pervading, no modification. But that's not what my real experience is. Typically, each one of us, you and me, always take myself as the body. When I say myself, I always identify with myself. And I put my date of birth as some number. And I always identify myself. And my color, I will say that what exactly is the color of my body. And my age, everything is, we talk in the day-to-day reality, in the transactional world. We are not the Atma. We always identify with as the body. So when we strongly identify ourselves with the body, how do you handle this situation? Because the death and birth are realities of life, and you identify strongly with the body. So in that perspective, if you take that point of view, because Krishna, you can explain about Atma in as many words as he wants. But if my identification is with the body, how do I cope up with the situation? So that point of view is explained. This is why this verse is an alternate point of view. The next few verses are alternate point of view. And the point of view is that you are identifying with the body. And if you really think about that, that's exactly what each one of our experience is. The current state, we always identify with body. So if we identify with the body, is there any legitimate reason for getting into a depressed mode? So let's see that. Anu, are you in the call? If you're there, we can chant.
Okay. Atha chainam nityajatam nityam va manyase mritam tathapitvam mahabaho naivam shochitum arhasi.
Very good. So let's try to see the word by word meaning, and we will see the summary also. Atha chainam nityajatam cha enam, meaning that Atma. Atha means now. So far we discussed a topic with a point of view that your true nature is the Atma. We talked earlier. So now Krishna is taking a different point of view. So he tells Atha cha enam. In case if you think that this yourself is Nityajadam, is eternally born, Nityam Vamanyate Mritam, it is ever dying. That means it is constantly, means every time it is born and it is death. So it is getting born and dying every time, because Atma's nature was not like that. We said that it is not born and it is not dying. Whereas the body, there is a birth and there is a death. So if it is getting born and dying at constantly, so Nityam Va Manyate Mritam, if you consider that this Atma is like your body, it gets born and it gets dying. Then Krishna tells, Tathapi Tvam Mahabaho, even then, even if you take yourself as the body, so if you take yourself as the body's limitation becomes your limitation. If you take yourself as the body, that means birth and death is a constant, unchanging phenomenon. Even then, Krishna tells, Nainam shochitum arhasi. You should not get into a depressed mode. Got it, right?
Was he talking about the subtle body being born and destroyed again and again?
Yeah, means first of all, he's talking from the physical perspective.
Physical body.
Yeah, physical perspective, but subtle body also will come into picture. But what is your experience? Your experience is that whenever you open your eyes and see everywhere, right? Every day you see hundreds of births. Every day you see hundreds of deaths. And nowadays it's more. So you see death and birth everywhere. And if you think that that is the reality of life, because earlier we said the death and birth is only for the gadget. So now he's saying that if the death and birth is for yourself, even then you should not get into a depressed mode. Why? He's going to explain. So this is we are taking a turn right now. So far a set of argument was given. And even if you cannot conceive that argument, and if you think that what you see is the reality, then there is no need to be worried. This is the style of the scripture. Because otherwise you talk about a state which you never heard and experienced, and you say that that state is okay. That is not the right way. It has to be connected with your day-to-day experience. So that's why this verse connects you with exactly what you experience on a day-by-day basis. So this is the sentences. Atha chainam nityajatam. And if you think this Atma is to have constant birth and death, then also you should not have any sorrow. So this is the alternate point of view. So forgets all the Vedantic views and take the view of a ordinary layman. If you look at Atma, keeping with the body, like always born and continuously born and dying, then also there is no need to get into a depressed mode. Now, he is going to explain why. Because this is a connecting verse which connects the train of thoughts of the previous verses to the next set of verses. In the next set of verses, he put forth his argument. So that's what it is. So this and the following stanzas are the argument from a kind of a material, it's not entirely materialistic, but which is closer to the materialistic point of view. What is that point of view? Direct perception is the only truth. If I see it, I believe it. I see that means people are dying every day and people are getting birth. You are seeing birth and death every day. If that is the case, how do you explain that? And how do you make sure that you are not getting into depressed? So this type of argument is constantly used in our literature, and this is known as Kanika Vijnanavada. This is a technical term used in our scriptures because they wanted to make sure that all the point of views are covered. It is not just that one point of view is covered. So I'll just share you one example. In ancient times, like when there was a difference of opinion, two scholars used to get together and they used to have debate. Means you could see that debate in Buddha's time, and you could see such debates during Shankaracharya's time. So how do you do that? When two people sit together, or when you write a thesis which breaks the other person's argument, first thing you have to do is you are supposed to represent the other person's point of view in a way satisfied to the other person. This is for what? This is to ensure that you studied the other piece properly. Because otherwise nowadays modern argument is that you just look at his fault alone and try to break it. So you are supposed to learn that and you need to make sure, you need to get certified from the other person that you know this subject. Then only you are supposed to argue. That was the honesty, intellectual honesty. So that's why you can see in every scriptures they cover all the different point of view. So this verse is a connecting verse which is going to get us connected to the next verse. And the next verse is going to talk about the facts of life. So Anu, if you don't mind, you can chant.
Yeah. जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
This is one of the beautiful verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So I would say consider this as one of the key verses. When we talk about the 18 key verses, we already talked about the two, and this has that much value. This is such an important verse. It talks about a universal fact of life. So let's try to understand that. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityu. Dhruva means certainly, firm, certainly, 100%. Whoever that is born, there is when somebody is born, there is one thing is 100% certain. What is that?
What is it?
When somebody is born, there is only one thing that is certain. I cannot say that he is going to become an engineer. I cannot say that he is going to live 100 years. I cannot say that he is going to marry one person. I cannot say that he is going to be successful or not. But I can say one thing for sure. What is that?
You can die.
He will die. Some point of time, he will die. So that is the first point. Whoever is born, he will die. Then Krishna is making one more point. Dhruvam janma mritasya cha. So whoever is dying, he is saying that for sure they will born again. That part is not our direct experience. That's what I was telling earlier. It is not 100% materialistic. The first line, you can see that is 100% materialistic. No, everybody will accept it without any questions. So he said that it is 100% certain that whoever is born, they will die. And then he will say that whoever is dying, they will born again. So then he say that tasmat apariharyarthe. So the death is certain for anybody who is born. And he say that is aparihara. It is choiceless. It is inevitable. Nobody can solve that. Natvam shochitu barhasi. So if there is a fact, this is the argument. If there is a fact, you are going to cry about that fact. What benefit, what change it is going to make on that fact? Think through that. So if you step into water and you get wet and you are going to cry, you are going to make a lot of problem saying that I got wet. Is that going to change the situation? As long as you are in the water, you will get wet. Like that, if you are born in this world, 100% you will die. And he say that if you are dying, you will born again. So these are unchangeable fact, choiceless fact. And there is no point, or an intelligent person should not get depressed because of this. Of course, there will be sadness. We are not talking about that. You should not be sad. You should not get into a depressed mode or over the facts that cannot changed. So let's see a little bit more. So the first part is, he say that death of what is born is 100% certain. That is sentence number 1. Sentence number 2 is birth of what is death is certain. So the first sentence, I'm sure all of you can accept. Second sentence, you may say, wait a minute. How can you say that? That's not my experience. How do you prove it? I cannot prove it. And that is where I wanted to bring the karma theory. So to explain the sentence 2, we need to understand the karma theory very logically. And sentence 3 is saying that, therefore, regarding the object which is not avoidable, regarding the choiceless situation, you should not grieve. Or meaning grief means not the normal grief. Do not get depressed. So this is the point. So let's try to see a little bit more. This is an important verse because it is a practical wisdom. Because they say what cannot be cured. What is the statement? Do you know that? What cannot be cured? What the modern world tells us, the counselors tells us. What can endured. Correct. What cannot be cured should be endured. Otherwise, I'm subjected to failure. I'm subjected to failure if I cannot endure that. So, this verse is a perspective from common sense. The message of the Gita here is accept choiceless situation. It is an important lesson of the Gita. And I already invoked one of the famous prayer called Serenity Prayer. Anybody remembering what is the Serenity Prayer? Oh Lord, what is that? Serenity Prayer.
Grant me the serenity
Yeah,
to accept the things I cannot change,
correct.
change the things that I can change,
Exactly.
and courage to change the things that I can change,
Yes.
and wisdom to know the difference.
Exactly. So this is what we are talking here. And if you remember on verse 13, Krishna explained this. Not 13, I think 14. Krishna explained this. How to develop this skill. This skill of accepting the choiceless. Accepting means whether you like it or not, you have to accept these things, right? Even if I say that I do not accept, is there any choice for me? Absolutely no choice. So typically people accept this with murmuring, grumbling, crying, and making other people, everybody else miserable. This is how typically we accept it. So here Krishna tells, right? You accept with understanding and without these extreme reactions. And he said we have to develop a skill. And what was that skill? We talked about that at that point of time, if you remember. Titiksha. Right? The verse 14, we talked about that skill. We wanted a discipline to be developed mentally. And that discipline is known as Titiksha. The discipline is known as Sahanam Sarvadukhanam Apratikara Purvakam Chinta Vilaparahitam. So this ability to accept everything that I cannot change with a positive mindset. That is what is Titiksha. And if you remember, I went to the scientific studies referring to this particular skill. And I talked about two skills. One is called threshold of pain, and the other one was tolerance of pain. Right? If you remember that?
Yes, yes.
So the threshold of pain, the tolerance of pain, we saw that with practice, it can be improved. With practice, it can be improved. So I referred the 2-3 scientific research paper, which clearly tells that. So this is what is being discussed here. Because otherwise we are putting ourselves into failure, setting for failure in life, if we cannot develop this skill. So we need to develop, this is a learned skill. We all can learn that. And later Krishna is going to give us some wonderful technique, how to learn the skill of Titiksha. Because having this Titiksha is going to help us to face firmly even death. Shakespeare said, like, the coward will die many times, but a courageous person will taste the death only once. Brilliantly explained by Shakespeare. Vivekananda was a big fan of this. He explained this to a lot of people many times, many places. So this is a skill we need to develop. So from a common perspective, even if you don't believe in Atma, if you think that death is certain for everybody, still you should face it, because what choice you have? You have no choice other than facing it. So this is what it is said. But I wanted to go back and understand one idea, because you all agree with the fact that death is certain for anybody who is born. But Birth is not certain, means how can I say that? Or how can Krishna say that? Birth is certain for anybody is dying. So that part needs a little bit of analysis. For that, we need to understand karma. But before that, couple of more points. So whoever that is born will have to die one day. So anything that is born is subjected to death. It is proved by all the three pramanas. Pramana means, we already talked about that, a means of knowledge. So the three means of knowledge, one is direct perception, second one is inference, and the third means is scriptures. So the direct perception tells me that anybody who is born will die on one day. Logically, inference, I can clearly tells that anybody who is born will die one day. And the scriptures also tells me that. So it is Shruti, Yukti and Anubhava. All the three pramanas aligned, no confusion. And we can see that even the avatars, the so-called incarnations of God, there was a Rama, there was a Krishna, there was a Christ, there was a Muhammad who is a prophet, and there was Mahavira. All these great sages, Ramana Maharshi, modern time, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, all these saintly people, they also eventually had to give away the life. So how can you expect yourself to be infinite life when even these great avatars has to leave the body? So the first lesson, we need to learn to accept life and death as an intrinsic path, means part of our life. It is going to happen. Two stories. One is, you might have heard this story. So Lord Buddha, once while he was wandering, one mother came to him and saying that my young child passed away. Can you save him? Save him. You know that story? Anybody heard of that story? Very popular story in Buddhist tradition.
No, Rajaji.
Okay, so Buddha was completely shaken by this mother, right? She said like, this small child passed away. Everybody says that you are God's incarnation, so you can give life to him. Buddha said, yes, I can do that. But you have to do something for me. Go to a house in this village, any house, it doesn't matter, and get me a little bit of mustard seeds from one house where there was no death. This lady went to every house in the village and she could not find one house where there was no death happened. So with that, she turned into a monk. So Buddha was trying to teach her that it is a fact of life. Another story, just to make it a little bit fun. So in Mahabharata, there was a famous conversation with a Yaksha and Yudhishthira. You all know the context? One day, these Pandavas were in exile. They were in forest. So they were really thirsty. So the youngest Pandava, Nakula, Sahadeva, went to fetch some water. So when he reached a river, he saw a yaksha, or a bird, in fact. The bird said, you can take the water after answering my question. He didn't mind. He took the water and drank. He fell down and died. So that happened to Nakula, Arjuna, Bhima, and finally Yudhishthira came there. Yudhishthira saw that all the four people lying down dead there. So Yudhishthira asked, what can I do? He said, answer my questions. So he became an Yaksha and he asked him 6 questions. And Yudhishthira successfully answered that question, and then this Yaksha make everybody free. That's the story. But one of the question was, what is the biggest wonder of the world? Anybody know what that answer? What answer Yudhishthira was given?
That people are afraid of death.
No, actually he said people are seeing death every day. But nobody realizes that I also need to die.
They are also going to die.
Yeah. That was a very satisfactory answer to Yudhishthira. We all read newspaper, right? When this whole pandemic happened in China, what was our reaction? Honestly, touch your heart and tell me. You all felt sad. I know that. We all are good people. We all felt,
What happened to us?
yeah. But slowly, slowly, a couple of cases reported in United States and a few cases reported in India. Mind you, the perception has slightly changed. Now it's in North Brunswick and South Brunswick. It's means every day somebody comes and read a paper. Today another 2,000 infected cases and another 500 deaths. You get scared.
Yeah, now it's relatively close to you.
Correct. So you typically don't understand. See, just because you are exposed to knowledge, that doesn't mean that you have the knowledge and wisdom usually. That has to come to you with proper understanding. You have to assimilate that knowledge. And this depth, we have to understand. And we have to be ready for it before it drags you. So that's what we need to do. Over a period of time, you will see that. This fear of death. And next year, New Year Day, what we are going to, not, means first week after New Year Day, God willing, we can open the center and publish. We are going to do a meditation. Near death meditation. That's a very powerful meditation which can change your perceptions a lot. So this is given by the scriptures. So death is introduced very positively, and we will talk about, means in the Vedanta classes, eventually we are going to cover Kathopanishad, which means a dialogue with the death. So we need to understand what is death, and we need to be ready to face it, because don't think that it's happening everywhere else in the world and I am exempted. That's impossible. Everybody has to face that. Couple of other stories also, and this is just it's a direct experience of me. So one of our teacher, Swami Dayananda, he was from Tamil Nadu. He was, means you, most of you know him. So his final days, we all were exposed to that some way or the other. He got seriously sick when he was here in Pennsylvania, and he had to be airlifted to India, like because he had a wish to go back to India. So before airlifting to India, he came to the ashram in Pennsylvania and he gave a talk. I think it is there in YouTube. I will send a link if I can find, but at least the transcripts are there. He could not even speak. And the content of that speech was, in 2 weeks' time, you will hear a news. What was that news? Swami Dayananda passed away. And he quoted this verse. See, you all are not ordinary people. You are all exposed to this teaching. So you have to take this news very positively. And this is the verse he quoted at that time. So this verse, it struck in my heart pretty much. And he just explained that and he laughed. And somebody was asking him, how can you laugh at this point of time? His answer was, see, with this attitude, I have the next 14 more days. If this is not my attitude, I'm already dead. That's it. So this is another big experience. So with that, so some facts of life. Death is certain for anything that is born, and rebirth is certain for anybody who is dying. This is the law of karma. We are going to talk about that, so don't worry about that. The first part, let's cover. So there is no need to worry or get depressed over this choiceless situation. An intelligent person should gracefully accept this choiceless situation. And you can see the modern management, what is being taught to CEOs, etc. Very recently I saw this statement, exact same statement. You have to accept gracefully the choiceless situation. Sometimes this pandemic is happening. A lot of companies are going through a lot of difficulties. So insurance companies, as we know, the claims, because the death claims has increased exponentially. Non-business has stopped. So sometimes you have to accept it, because it's not the end of the world. You have to somehow get out of it and then move. There is no point in getting depressed with this. So, couple of things means how to accept these choiceless facts. One method is understand the fact of life and pray to God for developing a psychological immune system. Because nowadays we always hear how to develop this immune system. You all know that, right? So there are a lot of natural antibiotic. For example, our turmeric, our ginger, our honey, and apple cider vinegar. All these are natural antibiotic. If you take these properly, it can improve your immune system. Second thing is that you have to make sure that you are invoking your relaxation response. It's a must thing. If you want to make your immune system strong, if you are in that stressed mode, your immune system will not work at all. So this immune system, you need to make sure that the relaxation response is continuously triggered. So I requested Gina to start a meditation session from next Sunday. So every Sunday morning, she will do a Zoom meditation session, clearly focusing on this relaxation aspect, and all of you can join. So because it is extremely important in this situation to get relaxed. Means these are tools and techniques by which you can relax. So the point Krishna is making here is that just like the physical relaxation, just like you make the body's immune system stronger, you have to develop an immune system for the mind. So immune system for the mind is typically a lot of things can pull your mind down. So how do you develop that immune system, an inner power, and how to tap your own internal potential? It is means prayer is a powerful means. Start chapter, we will see that in detail. But see, these points, whether you don't believe in Advaita, Dvaita, Vishishta Dvaita, it doesn't matter. Developing the mental immune system, the psychological immune system, it is not only required for Indians or Hindus or those who are the admirers of Krishna. It is universal. That is why Krishna is a universal teacher. It's not that everybody is going to see him as a universal teacher. This teaching is applicable to everybody. So how you have to develop an internal immune system, or you have to strengthen your internal immune system so that I can face the facts of life. This is what the essence of this verse. Clear? If that is clear, we'll use the 15 minutes to start with the karma theory, and we'll have to continue that next week. So, clear so far? Any questions?
Rajesh, Sanjay this side.
Yeah, hi Sanjay.
So one question. So then we call something called that Amar, right?
Yep.
How do we relate that with what we have? Like everyone who has born will have to die.
So what you call as Amar is Atma. So that was the first topic of discussion. So Krishna said, essentially, your true nature is Amar. Amar means not death. So that is your true nature. But that is not what you are understanding. Because every creature in the world is afraid of death. Why? Because they always identify with the body. And the body is subjected to death. So till you transition your identity from this mortal body to the immortal Atma or the self, this fear of death is there for you, 100%. So this verse is telling that if you are identified with this body, and if you think that this body is subjected to death at a certain point of time, still you should not get depressed, because even God cannot change that. That's a fact. And there is no point in, even if you sit and depress for the entire life, that situation is not going to change. Of course, you have to do everything to sustain the life as much as possible. But know that whatever you do, right, it can go up to 120 years or 130 years, nothing more than that. So learn to face the death, because if you face it, you are good. Otherwise, someday, each one of us will have to face the death, 100%. It might be after 50 years, or it might be after 100 years. I'm sure before that. But one day you have to deal with that. And I told you the story also, right? Rockefellers told Vivekananda, I have enough money, I don't have any problem. What your teaching is going to do, help me. And his response was spontaneous. His response was, this teaching will help you to face the death properly. He was stunned. So that famous conversation between Vivekananda and the businessman Rockefeller. So with that, any other questions? Please ask. Otherwise, we have to spend probably the entire next week, but at least we will get started with the